Hi everyone, this is Adam here again with the Here to Listen podcast, part of our run of podcasts that we're doing in response to the lockdown. The community awareness day is obviously not happening now, and the NCS participants that would be there very much in person, we're going to be doing things remotely. So I'm here with Penny from Canine
Partners.
Thank you. Canine Partners. And yeah, I would describe your organisation as one of our most popular ones. And that might be because you've got dogs around and everyone, well, most people love dogs or animals and gravitate towards. And I think just as an aside, as an organisation, we got pretty cute about placing you. You know, like if we put you near the door, then people tend not to go into the room so far. But if we put you in the middle of the room, then they kind of make a beeline and then they're like in the room. So yeah, a little modification that we had. I was wondering if you could just start by saying a bit about Canine Partners as a whole and then your role within it. But I'm also curious about the founding of it, you know, how it all started. So I'll let you choose a starting point there.
Okay, well, we'll really miss seeing everybody face to face because we loved those days when we saw people and they loved the dogs and so on. But this is a good way of moving forward, isn't it? Really. So Canine Partners, its the full name is Canine Partners for Independence, and it trains assistance dogs for people who have disabilities. And those disabilities mean that they have to use a wheelchair most or all of the time, really. And their disability may be something that they've been born with, something like cerebral palsy. It might be something that's happened through an injury. That might be military or a road accident or something like that that leads to spinal injuries or amputation of a limb. Or it might just be through an illness that's developed over time. Things like multiple sclerosis. A lot of our partners have that illness, which means that their muscles gradually degenerate and they can't use them very effectively. Or things like arthritis, which affects the joints. Or something like Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which I had never heard of before, but it's where the joints come out of place, and that can be very painful as well. So disabilities are caused by all sorts of different things, really. But our assistance dogs are there to help people in their daily lives. I mean, it so happens that this year is the 30th anniversary of Canine Partners. So when Adam said, you know, how did it begin? Well, it began with two ladies. One was very interested in the welfare of dogs and so on, and the other was a vet. And they decided that they would start training dogs after a visit to America where they'd seen assistance dogs working. And they just trained one or two a year to begin with. And then gradually over time, the charity developed. This year was going to be a great celebratory year of 30 years, but obviously things have happened that have prevented lots of the plans that were in place. The colour for the charity is purple. You can probably see I'm wearing a purple t-shirt.
Yeah, big fan of purple myself. We've got it in our logo too.
Canine Partners, and so I've got paws on my earrings and paws on my necklace, and so on to kind of celebrate what it is.
And a bit about the day-to-day. What would be your involvement, or what kind of roles does your involve?
Okay, well, Canine Partners is a national charity, but it has local training satellites. And so Bedford Satellite is one of 11 satellites that are across the country. It's based at Happy Dog Training and Grooming Centre in Clapham. And the satellites operate, so you have a satellite trainer who's an employee of the charity, the name of our satellite training. And then there are volunteers. There are about 100 volunteers in Bedford. And some of them are puppy parents, and that means they have a puppy from about 7 or 8 weeks old, and they have them for a year or 14 months. And during that time, they do lots of basic training. Most of it's obedience. the sorts of things you might do with your pet dog. That might be sit down, wait, and leave, things like that. But there are three really important ones, and they are tug, touch, and retrieve. And the reasons for that are that they form the basis of all the tasks that the dog will do for their partner in their lifetime. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. But yeah, so 100 volunteers, several of them puppy parents, some of them foster parents. So that means if the puppy parent has to go to work, or has to go away for a week, or is ill, there is also always backup. And the foster parents might have them for a day, a week. When I was training my own dog Granger, I broke my ankle, so he had to go to foster parents for 4 weeks. But that's quite a lengthy time. Mostly it's short times. And then some of the volunteers are fundraisers, because it costs a lot of money to train and keep a dog for its lifetime. £30,000 for the lifetime of a dog. That's purchasing a dog or breeding it, training it, and then all the aftercare work once it's partnered. Did that answer your question, Adam?
Yeah. Speaking of breeding, do you like draw from a similar stock, parentage, that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, our dogs are usually Labradors mostly. I think 800 and something Labradors have been trained. The Golden Retrievers, about nearly 300 of them, and then crosses between them, and occasionally a bit of poodle thrown in. So you get a Labradoodle or something like that. But we have now, just the last 2 or 3 years, a breeding program. So whereas puppies used to come from breeders or might have been donated, my own dog was donated to the charity, now they breed a lot of their dogs. So they've got, I think, about 11 brood bitches. But of course, they can't breed from them at the moment because they can't have the puppies in training and so on. So it's a bit of a at the moment.
Yeah, it's something, quite a lot has slowed down, I imagine, with your organisation at the moment. But I still imagine there's still your fostering and your volunteer, well, maybe not volunteers turning up at people's houses, but people volunteering to initially bring up the dogs. Yes,
I mean, my second dog, Pike, he trained with in Bedford Satellite, and there are other puppies that trained with him who are still with their puppy parents, have not gone to advanced training and are nearly 2 years old, because they can't do the advanced training at the moment. So things are limited. They're a bit closed down. They can't partner people at the moment. They were hoping to partner 80 partnerships this year, but they can't do that at the moment. So everything is the main work at the moment is the aftercare work. People who look after the partnerships and make sure they know they've got the support they need.
When you say training and advanced training, I'm making an assumption here. Well, training, I'm wondering, is the normal doggy stuff, and then advanced training is more about the organisation and how they can support their service users?
Yeah, the training, you've got the 12 to 14 months in the satellite. So all our puppies, we'll send you photographs of all our puppies in the satellite at the moment. And they would normally be aged up to about 14 months, maybe a little bit older. And they, as you say, they learn the basic obedience, but they learn tug, touch and retrieve as well. We play loads of games with them to teach them tug, touch and retrieve. And that's because if they play games with tugging, then they can learn how to tug people's socks off, their shoes off, help them to undress, pull the duvet off the bed, pull the washing out of the machine, that kind of thing. Touch, we just play touch with our hands, and maybe a button on the wall, but they gradually learn to touch lift buttons, emergency buttons, touch lamps, things like that. And then the retrieve, they can go and fetch the post. And it's all games to begin with in that first 14 months. So it's all toys and playing, but it becomes things like collecting the post, getting the remote control for you, getting shopping off the shelves in the supermarket, picking up things that you drop, because you're in a wheelchair, you can't reach the ground very easily if you drop your car keys, you know. So the dog will do all of that. So they learn tug, touch and retrieve in all sorts of play situations. Then they go on to advanced training, 2 training centres, one in Sussex, one in Leicestershire, and that's where they learn to put all that play into task work. They also go to places when they're training. They go to places that you wouldn't normally see puppies. So they go into supermarkets and restaurants and cinemas, and we try to give them as much experience as we possibly can, so that nothing phases them when they go with their partner to places like that.
I was wondering also, it's don't want to use the word mechanical, but a sort of system of play. But there seems to be, like, not forgetting, obviously, that you've got a companion, that you've got this person that is around the house. I wondered if they contribute towards, like, risk of loneliness, or family not being around to look after people as well. They must serve that purpose as well.
They certainly do. I mean, all the practical tasks that they do are great, because they save energy with people who are in pain, or you just find movement difficult. But all of them will say, he's my best friend, she's my best friend, she's such a companion, she's there for me. I was going to say a little bit about a partnership, Sally and Ethan, because Sally grew up in Bedfordshire and went to school in Bedford, and was taken ill late school, early university years. And I remember her sending me this beautiful photograph of her with Ethan. She wasn't very well over Christmas, and there was Ethan on the bed with her, the dog, on the bed with her, a real comfort. Ethan had the ring for her wedding and things like that, so it is a much more than just a dog that will do things for you. And they have a great time, they have a lovely time. My own dog Granger is a demonstration dog for the charity, so we do talks, and he does a day in the life of, gets me out of bed in the morning, does washing, shopping, and demonstrates all of that. And when he's doing it, his tail is wagging the whole time, wag, 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 wag. He just adores it. And all of them are like that. They're not just there for, like you say, a mechanistic purpose. They're a friend, they're a companion.
Yeah, I don't have dogs myself, but I know Labradors to be extreme pleasers. That they're only too willing to please. They like direction. They're very kind of pack and alpha kind of led. They just want to know, right, what's my place? What am I doing? What am I doing today? And there seems to be an excitement about that obviously comes about with the wagging. It's infectious, I think, as well. Like the not again, I've never really had dogs, not in my family or anything like that, but if I see a dog, I kind of want to just go, hello mate, and kind of just get involved. And the please of which they are to see you seems to be the infectious part of it as well. I'm also really pleased to see you, and here's a ball chuck, and they want to return. And so it doesn't seem too surprising to me that is the breed that you picked. I don't know how others compare, but I wonder, is it just a case of those are the best dogs for that temperament, or what are your thoughts on the decision to go with that particular breed?
Well, some of it is exactly what you say. They love to please. They're bred to retrieve, of course, because they were bred to retrieve game when it's shot. So they love getting things. My Granger is absolutely obsessed with balls, and he is my definition of joy, because he just adores what he does, and so on. And of course, they're also quite calm. So, if you work in an office, you want your assistant's dog lying nice and calmly under your desk. So they've done 1 or 2 experiments with poodles, but poodles, though very intelligent, are a bit hyper. They're kind of all over the place. So those experiments haven't been terribly successful. That's why you get crosses with poodles rather than purebred.
So
It's a
you
good
kind of
point.
want the intelligence of one mixed with the other qualities of the other
Yeah,
breed,
the yeah,
to
that's
draw
right.
those in. Not that I'm saying that retrievers are stupid. um, but yeah, it just sounds like there's a funny thing about you saying with the retrieval side of things that they used to retrieve game, and it's interesting to me that I imagine none of the dogs that you've worked with have retrieved game, and there's probably generations where they haven't retrieved game, yet it's still in there. I find that
They're
quite
still in there. Yeah,
interesting.
fascinating, isn't
Yeah, this instinct is just still very much present rather than something that's been taught. It's bizarre.
it? Mm.
I know that having worked with us often, you've supported lots of social action projects with our young people. I was going to ask you a bit about what you feel our young people in the current cohort can be involved in. But yeah, any suggestions as well, lockdown or not, but also name checking maybe some of the previous projects to give some young people some ideas about what they can do.
Mm. Because some of the things young people have done in the past, you can't do now. Things practically around the training centre
Mhm.
that we use, which is a shame. But I think I was giving some thought to this, and I think there are two main strands, if you like. One is just raising awareness, because the more people who know about the charity, the more likely they are to support the charity in some way.
Mhm.
So they might become puppy parents, or they might become foster parents, or they might become fundraisers, and that's really good. But also it means that the more people know about the charity, the more likely it is that people who could do with a dog would realise that that was available to them.
Mhm.
Because there's something like 1.2 million people who use a wheelchair in the country, and not all of them would benefit from a dog, but many of them would. And if they know that is available to them, and they can apply for a dog, that would, be a really good outcome of
Mhm.
raising awareness. But the other thing is, as I said, it costs about £30,000 for a dog. That's buying or breeding the dog, um, training it, and then supporting the partnership. The dogs will work until something between 10 and 12
Mhm.
years of age. So money is a key thing.
Mhm.
So raising money would be great. And I could think of a couple of things really. We've got one of our partnerships who makes the most beautiful objects, purses, key fobs, poo bags, that kind of thing, and she sells them under the Wonky Dog label, and all the money goes to Canine Partners.
Mhm.
Or I make cards and I sell them, and all the money goes to Canine Partners. So I did think that if the young people wanted to market goods like that, and raise money for us in that way, that would be a really lovely thing to do.
Mhm.
Or they might have all sorts of ideas about raising money too, um, like directing people towards the website. They've got an adopt a dog scheme and sponsorship schemes. But also, if they raised money and liked to buy some toys as a result of previous groups, we have a toy library in Bedford,
Mhm.
and that helps us to teach the dogs to touch and retrieve in all sorts of toys, and
Mhm.
develop their intelligence through interactive feeding things. So I think the groups in the past have enjoyed finding toys that would work, and finding interactive feeders, and buying those for us. So, and one other thing that occurred to me around the raising awareness idea was they might like to do something like we're doing now. Say, get in touch with a puppy parent and say, what is it like to be a puppy parent, and have an interview, and then share that on their social media.
Mhm.
Um, and or yeah, so sharing on their social media things that they have done would
Mhm.
also help to raise awareness.
Yeah, I think I was thinking of like a video diary almost. you know, if there wasn't a lockdown, perhaps groups of young people following the progress of a dog, or people that are looking to get a dog as well, like maybe from both sides. But yeah, like little sort of video diary, almost like a week on week check-in, recorded. How you doing? You know, what updates have you got this week? How's it been? What's the progress been like? So that might serve as quite a nice sort of mini documentary, really, of the progress. Maybe something like that.
That would be a good learning curve as well, wouldn't it, for
Yeah,
people?
yeah. And I think like raising awareness is not to be underestimated either, because
Oh,
speaking from experience, there's a time where, I mean, I've got to think like 90% of the organisations that come to the community awareness days I hadn't ever heard of 5 years ago, and I'm, you know, in my 40s now, so I'd had like most of my lived life without knowing about any of these organisations. So the, one of the things that occurred to me in my last job working for Youth Action was the organisation that supports young people into volunteering, was how many organisations out there, small and big, that did amazing work, but you just never heard of, you didn't hear about. You know, and there's a case for maybe I wasn't like looking exactly for, you know, that kind of thing, but at the same time, we've all heard of, you know, NSPCC, and we've all, you know, all the big ones we've all heard of, but that's not to say that there's a lot of organisations that are still doing just as valuable work that maybe don't have the funding to fanfare themselves too much, or maybe they, I wouldn't ever say it's egotistical of the NSPCC, hello, but you know, that some people are just content to do the work and not like, you know, shout it out. You know, they just do it because they have the kindness of their own heart sometimes as well. Who have we got here?
this is Pike.
Pike.
So Pike is 2 next month.
Uh-huh.
He went down to advanced training, but he
Mm-hmm.
didn't actually pass because he doesn't like big groups of people,
Okay.
which is difficult. So
Mm-hmm.
we hope that he'll become a demonstration dog, like, and take over from Granger.
Mm-hmm.
You're beautiful. You are beautiful. Yeah, you love cuddles. You love cuddles. Yeah, good boy. Off you get then. Off, off.
It's a great little cameo, actually, as we're drawing to a close. Great, you know, just a little sneak preview of some of the dogs that you've got available. If people were interested in getting involved, would you be happy being the main point of contact? So, are you happy for a mobile number or an email address? Is there a preference around that for the first point of contact?
Um, excuse me, he's just opened the door. Um, yes, I am, and it's important that it is me. There are contact details on the website for the fundraising team nationally, but if we could manage that locally, then it relieves them of any sort of pressure of demand, if you
Yeah.
like. So
Okay.
yes, we can let you have all those contact details, and we'll respond to whatever they feel they want to do.
Yeah, yeah, and I've seen it. You know, you've always been a great supporter of the NCS as well, which has been
That's
great,
great.
and it's great seeing you year on year. I'm going to wrap up now. As I said before about it going onto YouTube, so I'll include any of the contact details within the comments of the YouTube video itself, and I'll certainly let you know when it goes live. But for now, thank you very much for joining me.
Well,
And
thank you. We love being associated with the program. It's a great program.
yes,
It's
good
good.
stuff. All right, thanks, Penny. Bye
Thank
bye.
you.